I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
All right, shout out to the family. We are back live. Shout out to my noggins and fangs that follow the page. We have a special guest today. I see you guys have been leaving comments about our recent interview on his channel. His name is Tim Constantine from the Sixth Sensory podcast. And we wanted to bring some raw, great information for you guys today. How are you doing, Tim?
Hey, doing good, Ani. Happy to talk with you as always. It just seems like every time we get together, the conversations just get bigger and better. And it's always a good thing. And the chemistry, people have told me, yeah, you guys, when y'all get together, y'all collide, if you will, on these topics. There's some good information flying around. There's some good chemistry. So all around good stuff, man. Just really happy to be here. Thank you.
Very much needed, because I feel like the topics sometimes are nuanced, because a lot of people, they feed into the socialism and their perspective, whether it be their religion or their political ideology or how they look at this stuff, or regurgitation is what I call it. It's a lot of regurgitation over the years with the New Age movement and other things that filter in. And I think we stay right in the middle. We may get a little bit woo, but, the woo stuff is excluded. And I think it needs to be articulated in a way that people can see other insights with it. So I greatly appreciate you coming on the Spiritual Shade Room to share some information today. Yeah. So today, family, we're going to talk again about the singularity. I want to coin another term, syntheticism is what I'm calling it, because I feel like what they're doing with AI or advancing, advanced machinery or mechanics in this new age and fusing it with transhumanism and moving us towards what is this paradox of what the singularity is, I feel like is an advantage for us to have a conversation and look at it from multiple angles and topics and have the discussion to see where is this thing actually going. So what is your insight and perspective on some of these things?
Yeah, and I like a lot of what you're saying there. There has been, I do see that with the convolution of some of these like new age like movements and other movements, of course, that maybe they started out organic, maybe they started out with pure intentions, but as do most of the movements in this country, they often get co-opted. You start to see the government get in here, and then you start to see the insertion of bad ideas that kind of coat good ideas like a candy apple. And the socialism part, I heard you mention that word. That's something I've been seeing a lot in my research with this stuff. Basically, I went down the technocracy rabbit hole. That's where I'm at with it. And of course, I think the singularity plugs right into that. Technocracy being government, just for people listening, it's a government or a control system of society by elites and technical experts. And, maybe I can get to the history of that. For now, I'll just say it really rears its head up in the 1930s coming out of Columbia. It's not just Columbia either. Elon Musk's grandfather was a part of bringing this up. And then you see it kind of go back and retreat to the shadows for a couple years. Well, more than a couple, about 3 decades. And then it comes back in the 70s. And now it's behind the scenes, just working like clockwork with where we see everything headed, where we're seeing ourselves on this track into singularity. So I'm going to try to bring all that together,
We can't wait to hear it. So what is your thoughts with the Trump administration, with the Elon Musk whole thing? Because first they come in like they want to bring in and break open this cryptocurrency thing. And they had this, what is Project Stargate, to speed up, the AI process so we can get ahead or get on par with what China was doing. Then they kind of split up, and then they're back together. And then Trump has this meeting with 33 Silicon Valley leaders in the tech industry. I'll call them the techno-gnostic priests, the priesthood of the techno-gnostics that develops this technology and furthers it. And it is even deeper than that. What is your thoughts with what this administration is doing, and how is that on par with other geopolitics with it of what they're trying to do with this whole thing?
Yeah, I saw that this was a thing and was going to be a thing before he got officially in, before he officially stepped foot in the White House for the second time. If you go back and you see and watch the footage of the inauguration, it was like a who's who of the tech world there, all the tech bros, all the technocrats, and the people who are, it's basically our modern day robber baron class. Rockefeller and JP Morgan anymore, Carnegie, it's Musk, Sam Altman, Zuckerberg, and so on. So early on you see Trump, how do we say it, like strengthening those ties, because I think those ties were already there behind the scenes. I think these people have relationships. They have these sort of backroom Bilderberg relationships already. But what we saw at the inauguration was him strengthening those ties and really putting it front and center in front of the public. And I see where this is going is definitely the singularity, which we'll get into, but what that entails, pertaining to crypto, like you said. Well, I see them making moves. I see that they have a plan, and they haven't really told the public that plan. And I think, we could see that with the CBDC thing. Everybody was worried about the CBDCs. Well, they said, we're not doing that. And I felt like a sigh of relief across this community. But it's like, hold on now. What are they going to do instead of the CBDC? That's what we got to keep our eye on. And I think what that's going to be is a stable coin that they're going to use Palantir. And it might be worse than a CBDC. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that Sam Altman or Peter Thiel with the Palantir?
That's Peter Thiel.
Oh, man.
That's Peter Thiel. And that's where you're going to see a real global tentacles with this thing, because that if you attach Palantir to a stable coin and start basing your currency off that, and you sort of switch the American dollar in a sense over to that, central banks all across the globe are going to implode. And it's going to become, they're going to jump on that. And it's going to become like it could become a worldwide global currency. So we could be seeing that too.
We've been hearing that for a long time. I don't know either way about the crypto thing. I feel a certain way that the government can lock us into that more than we have freedom of it. People see the freedom aspect of it, the positives or the qualities of what that new financial system can do. But they've been talking about the quantum financial system and what actually can transpire as they transition us out of fiat currency into this cryptocurrency thing. And I just see the word crypto and it makes me think of crypt, like dead, so it almost makes me think that it's a behooving trick, because we still don't know who created Bitcoin. We still don't know who are the people behind this, and it could very well be the CIA or other intelligence agencies from other nation states and countries and everything. So I have investments in crypto, but it's not like with some people, I want to put an overhaul into an investment into that, because I'm just not sure where it's going to go. What is some of your thoughts on that with how that's going?
Yeah, I mean, that's a legitimate concern. Especially with the Bitcoin thing. You're right. We have no idea who this Satoshi guy was. These days I tend to look at it like this: if he was a CIA or some other agent, some other intelligence agent, he may have been a rogue one, because they gave that to the people first. And I think that's our only hope with this whole thing, is that this guy was rogue, and that this was meant to be a fight the power type of a solution. And I'm not naive, but I'll say that's my hope. I don't know if that's what it is, but yeah, he did give it to the people. Because I look what would have, or think about what would have happened if the government had gotten this technology for the government, and solely the government.
Yeah.
They would be implementing this on us, and we wouldn't have any say in the matter. So I think we've got some wiggle room with Bitcoin, hopefully. And I think there's a lot of to sort of respond to something else you said, and I'm hoping to get into this with you tonight. This is in your wheelhouse, certainly, the occult aspect to all this stuff.
Yeah.
Occult cybernetics, occult crypto. I already like where you're going with that. Crypto, the crypt, just the esoteric meaning to all this stuff. And I want to get more into that. I think with data, even one that comes to mind, data is da'at from the Kabbalistic tree of life.
Yeah.
You could, there's so many, what binary would be binah.
Right.
So there's a lot of these cool little, and with the da'at connection, that I think there's something really to that. Because I think the way da'at sort of it interacts with the other, I'm not an expert on the tree of life, but I've looked into that, and da'at does operate quite like data does. It's like this very mystical, etherical concept, but it pulls everything together.
Yeah, it does. It's like the similar to the middle pillar. So Kether at the top of the Kabbalah, and guys, AI and all of this stuff, financial systems, how they program anything through mechanics has a little bit of Kabbalah or Kabbalistic mechanics to it. Kether or Kether is your pure potential. Tifereth is your consciousness, your soul, which is the moon. The moon aspect of the Kabbalah is patterns, how the system follows patterns. And then the Malkuth is a part of the manifestation. So when you talk in Doth, the Doth aspect is the gateway of transformation. And I've been talking about the techno-Gnostics. They're trying to formulate this third temple. The third temple of Israel is not in particular building another temple. The temple is the rising inside of technology. So it's a self-evolving mind rather than just a stone or external structure. Is an inner structure of self-directed growth. And with Elon Musk and a lot of things going on with what he's got, cooking up, he's been trying to push this Neuralink thing for the future. And I think the Neuralink is like the checkmate that they have on the table for all of this. What is your thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. I like that. Real quick, and I'll come right back to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
The way you pronounced it, which is probably the correct way, the way you pronounce da'at or da'ath, that reminded me of something I really want to comment on real quick, because I've heard that there was a dark father Saturn ties to this apparently, and that it is sometimes pronounced da'ath, and that's where they got Darth Vader.
It is. It's true.
Wow, that's crazy. And just to articulate one more thing with this, like data is also an anagram for da'at or da'ar. So, and this is how they're going to bridge the gap, I think, between humans and computers, and what Elon's trying to do here with Neuralink. It's a bridge between higher intellects and lower Sephiroth, if we're going to apply it to the tree of life. It's the bridge. It's the point where the other 10 Sephiroth unite. So what we're seeing right now, it's all about the data. It's all about they're stealing your data. Data is the new gold. This is very Kabbalistic. Very Kabbalistic. And back to Elon, let me read you something here. Because when we're talking about singularity, I think it's probably good that we hear this straight from the source's mouth, from the horse's mouth, from the people who built the system, right? So I pulled this quote that Musk made, and this is regarding the singularity. He says, "What happens when someone vastly smarter than humans come along in silicon form? It's called the singularity. it's like a black hole because you don't know what happens after that. It's hard to predict. So that's one sort of very loose interpretation of the singularity, but that's what Elon thinks. He's likening it to, some things that we see in movies a lot, where this intelligence comes along and manifests itself into a silicon form. Kind of reminds me of like biological robots or iRobot or some of these other like concepts. So, and if we want to go deeper with that, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just saying, and the event or horizon of a black hole is like the logo of Grok, and everything on X or Twitter, and so that speaks to what you're saying. It's just showing that iconography in what he's putting out there to archetypically show what the singularity is. But continue.
And I'll be completely transparent here. I pulled that from Joe Rogan, from one of his interviews. And these guys are politicians when they get on these big podcasts. They're not telling you the full thing. They're not laying it completely out on the table. They're doing this dance in the public eye where they give you a little bit, and it's up to us to fill in the gaps. And I think you filled in the gaps nicely there. And it's important that we look at the symbolism. And I snatched another quote from another guy. So, like I said, I think it's good that we hear this from these people. It's because they think that this is over our head, right? They don't think that we're going to come in here and cut it all to pieces and look at it for analysis. But so this is scientist Ben Gortzel. He's a friend of Ray Kurzweil. And he says that singularity is a point in time when technological events occur so rapidly that to the human mind, it appears almost instantaneous. And I think this kind of piggybacks off of what Elon was saying. And he goes further and says, it's similar to the concept of intelligence exploding that was posited by the mathematician I.G. Good in 1965 when he said the first truly intelligent machine will be the last invention that humanity needs to make. And then to tie it all up, he goes on to say that singularity, it's not just AI, but AI is probably the most powerful technology driving it, but it's also nanotech, life extension, genetic engineering, mind uploading, advanced energy technologies, etc. All these things happening at once boost each other, and that's the moment of singularity. So you get the sense that it's like humanity breaking out of an egg and sort of stepping out onto a foreign planet. Who knows what world we're stepping into at that point. It's like a birth. It's like a renew. It's like a phoenix.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. And comparative to the phoenix, the kundalini, which is the life force energy of not just us, the planet. It says in Vedic text that we're supposed to curate our kundalini in expanding consciousness. I feel like the highest state of the kundalini, which is samadhi, which is achieving pure consciousness, is what the singularity is for the techno-Gnostics. So that event horizon or that changing or transformation of Thoth is the main approach. The question is, how can this be utilized philosophically? Are we looking at it from a accelerationist point of view, or are we looking at it from an equilibrialist point of view? Or we're trying to accelerate and say, machines and AI, you since we've created you guys to be intelligent, and we have to talk about what type of intelligence we're speaking of once we get into the verbiage and the notes. But should AI just take over and humanity take a back seat and let their golem, bring the world into this new paradigm?
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I think that they have, like I said before, behind the scenes in the Bilderberg rooms, I think they have a system planned out here. And I think they have an idea of a golem and things that will come to be and how this will manifest. And I think if you jump to Ray Kurzweil, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, I heard him say that the singularity would begin in 2029. And I remember thinking, oh, he said that with confidence. And so I looked into that, and it turns out he's been saying that since 1999, man. And he's stuck by it this whole time. So him saying that in 1999 laid out a 30-year plan, which parallels with Agenda 2030.
Right.
They're saying it's going to hit in 2029.
Right.
Or creep in on 2029, but it might hit in 2030 rather. So, and I'm kind of joking when I say this. I got to tie the movies in with this though. I always thought when I found out about this, I always had this vision of Ray Kurzweil walking out of a theater in 1999, having just seen The Matrix for the first time, and it just clicked for him, and that's when he said, 2029, 30-year plan, because that movie
makes sense.
Has a way of it's strangely accurate to where we're going. So
it is. Jacking consciousness, plugging it in, the simulation, in and out, virtual reality. You know, you got the new Sora program that's making hard distinctions of what's real and fake now on social media. The Sora program, I think, is a pillar to what's to come. You know, how are we going to determine whether these things are fake and real? You can now take a picture or a video and post it in AI and ask if it's real or fake. But what happens when you can't do that? What happens when it's so distinctively real that the simulation is merging in with what we call reality, which is semi already doing? And then when the over promotion of the VR comes in, when people aren't going out to the grocery store or different events anymore, they're just on VR goggles. I think there was a movie called 2049 or something, LX 2049, where everyone was just in their house with the VR goggles, and that was like all of humanity. Everything was happening from there. How far from 2030, which they say is Agenda 2030, is this thing from right now? Is the question.
Yeah, I think they have a plan for that too. Well, one of the things you said there was like, what does happen? Truly, what's really going to happen here when the AI is no longer discernible at all from real life? It's already pretty much there, but when that really starts to take over, I mean, I think that their plan for that is they probably look at that like, okay, that's not a bad thing for us. We can turn this over to these groups like PolitiFact. Let them handle it. So PolitiFact becomes the liaison for the truth, so to speak. It's like, oh, we tested this video. It's not AI. Brought to you by PolitiFact. And of course, that's going to be a major problem because these fact checker agencies that we saw pop up during the pandemic and try to tell us what's what, they're completely government controlled.
Reuters too.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. There's a couple of them, right? Yeah. PolitiFact, Reuters. There's another one I'm blanking on, but so that just gives people more reason to stick to shows like ours, because we're going to help break that down. You know, we didn't fall for it in 2020 when they tried to tell us what was real and what's fake. And I don't think we'll fall for it again. You just going to have to question everything. But where it's headed again, you know, Singularity 2030, that seems to be their plan. Parallels Agenda 2030. I think that they're going to do something on a society level with this monetary system, like I said, you know, because just to maybe tie a bow on that, it's 2026. If you look at things in terms of a 4-year window, 4 years provides ample time for them to do a stable coin replacement of money globally and everything else, set up their new Reuters or PolitiFact, set all that stuff up, get it ready to go. And they're going to use Palantir for that stable coin. I definitely want to just make sure people are are paying attention with that, this will all be an aspect of the NWO, New World Order. It's a technocracy. It's an electronic control system. And I think they've got 4 years in their minds to finalize the setup. And this stuff is here, even if it's not here in this moment. For example, because I say this a lot, it's here even if it's not here. And what I mean by that is they're, for example, arresting people in Europe right now for social media posts. They're not doing that in my city yet. So that's why I say this is here even if it's not here. It's happening somewhere on Earth. Right. And this is no longer us just pontificating about sci-fi possibilities. We're in this now.
Nah, that's real good. And with the NWO thing that you said, if you think about AI and its abbreviations, you have A and like a I, like the I of the Illuminati. And if A is the first letter and I is the ninth letter, you think about what the C word in 19 really was. Because some people say it means certification of the V word, identification. And then you have AI, which is going to secure, the biometric data. And, they just released today that you have to pay like $45 at the airport if you don't have a real ID. At the airport, you have to pay an extra $45 now. So they're going to start chopping down, and that price is going to skyrocket until everybody starts to get it. And so it's a slow rollout. But yeah, that AI thing, thinking of the 19th tarot card, because A is 1, I is 9. 19 is the sun card in the tarot deck. And when you think of the sun, you think about illumination. So they're doing a illuminating ritual, with the soft rollout that they've been doing. But the hard rollout really begins to start in 2030 once we're approaching the transhumanist agenda. So, feel free, Tim, whenever you're ready. If you're ready to roll with some information, don't let me keep you back. I wanted to get into it.
Okay. Now's probably a good time. I definitely wanted to bring up Klaus Schwab, right? What's his name? Mm-hmm. The Darth Vader himself. Klaus Schwab, his replacement.
Oh yeah, that guy's creepy.
Oh, he's creepy. All right. They put another guy in. His name's Peter Brabeck, and he even has the one reptile eye. If you look at some of the pictures online, he did some. Yeah. So this guy is diabolical, man. This is another thing, like with, like I talked about the sigh of relief when they said, okay, we might not be doing the CBDC anymore, right? Well, what are they going to do instead? Well, there's a sigh of relief when Klaus Vader, the Nazi himself, steps down. But what are they going to do instead? Well, it's this guy. And he is the former CEO of Nestle, which is the world's largest food and beverage company. And they are under boycott right now for killing infants with their baby formula. So you want to talk about poisoning the foods. This guy's got the biggest food and beverage company on the planet. This guy was busted talking about water, and he was making these statements about water not being a free human right. And he said, to think that it's a human right is extremist. Water should be privatized and have a market price. So that's just to give you a layout of who this guy is. And he's right now, he's deeply involved with JESDA, which is the Geneva Science and Diplomacy Anticipation Summit. What are they anticipating? Well, it's the stuff that we're talking about right now. And he says, I've listened to a couple of this guy's interviews. He's saying that the biggest innovations are going to involve quantum and quantum computing. So he just launched what's called the Open Quantum Institute. Now that kind of sounds boring, but basically what they're doing is they're setting this thing up, and they're counting on AI and internet. They're counting on it for control over everybody. So, it's based in Geneva. So CERN's involved. Geneva is like the think tank for the New World Order. CERN is also a computer internet thing. I definitely want to highlight that. They're definitely involved with all this. So basically, in a nutshell, from what I can tell, they're going to try and control the internet out of CERN, and he's spearheading it. And it's
Mhm.
it's interesting because they released the internet out of CERN first in Europe. That was
Right.
in 1989. And I remember the guy's name. It was Tim Berners-Lee. He was a CERN scientist who first released the internet, but
Okay.
it came out of CERN.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
I was thinking of ARPANET ahead. My bad. That was before the 98, the ARPANET whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, look, that was up on CERN's website for a while. They had a thing up there talking about, they were highlighting the work of Tim, and they were talking about how he released the internet first, and I think it was 98 out of CERN. So, I mean, we could probably do some fact checking on that, but they're claiming that they released the internet first. So I just think it's interesting that they're trying to reclaim control of it with Peter Brabeck here. And
Yeah, some people point out in this symbolism with CERN, there is a
mm,
666, by the way.
yeah, hmm yeah. If you were to disassemble that logo, you would be
Mhm.
looking at, I think, 3 6s. There's 3 of them in there somewhere. So, and there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot with CERN. You know, whole episodes could be done on CERN. There's a lot of occult stuff there. There's that whole Shiva statue out there
Mhm.
that they claim was a gift, but if you look back far enough, so Shiva is also called Pashupati. It's an Indus Valley
Mhm.
god. Pashupati was carried up through Turkey and into Europe by migrants, where it became Cernunnos. So
Mm.
the other name for Shiva is CERN or Cernunnos, but CERN is the root word. So basically, CERN has a god statue of CERN in their courtyard because it was in that area where they first started calling Pashupati Cernunnos. From what I can tell, it was in the Switzerland area where that switch happened. So there's a lot of little
Wow.
hidden things like that with CERN.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot
And
with Cernunnos, the goat gods. He's a replica of Pan,
mhm.
from what I believe. He comes from Pan, and that's where you get the word panic from in the English language, is the god Pan, or chaos. And there's some other metaphysical things. So I believe you, bro.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing they want to do, this is kind of moving off of CERN a little bit here, but
Okay.
we can get into this in a second. If we want to dig on CERN some more, we can. But another thing they want to do is resilient cities, and I'll get into that whenever.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Okay.
We're riding. We're rolling.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, there was one thing that came to mind with CERN too. That I might as well throw this in real quick. They had that, everybody talks about the Goddard Tunnel
Yeah.
ceremony.
Hmm.
That was CERN who kind of put that on.
Yeah, it
The
was.
actors, yeah, like the people that performing, the people who wore the goat costumes and were dancing around for that, those were people at CERN. So, like I said, whole episodes could be done on this place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but resilient cities. Have you heard about this one?
I haven't. Is this the smart cities that you're speaking of, or this is something different?
It's pretty much a smart city, from what I can tell. It seems like it's another name for it. Um,
Okay.
what I heard rumors and rumblings of this, so I looked into it, and basically, it's a Rockefeller Foundation project, and Rockefellers are calling it resilient cities. It's almost like it's their version of the 15-minute city project. This was they had a website up, and if you try to look at the website now, it's the original site. You get that 503 service unavailable message. But yeah, 15-minute smart cities, no cache, digital IDs. I think we talked about that a minute ago. Just the works. And what I think they're doing right now is it looks like they're trying to perfect this system in Mexico first. They like to do this, like we saw it with the Maui fires. They like to pick these places outside of kind of like the main part of the US to test these systems out. So they're doing it in Guadalajara and 6 sections of Mexico City right now. So like I said, the original site was taken down. So I kept looking, and then I found something about it. It's on another website now. It's called rockefellerfoundation.org. And they say 100 cities have been chosen. And they show a picture. This is where it gets good. They show a picture of Mr. Beast on there. So they come to find out they've recently partnered with him. This is a Rockefeller Mr. Beast alignment. So I think you've probably seen this, right? Recently, these clips came out of Mr. Beast talking about him going to like a Bilderberg-like event.
I did. I talked about it a little bit, but he also just started the Beast Cities, where or the theme parks he's doing, where he creates like a miniature little city you bring your kids to. And this is right before the Rockefeller Foundation philanthropy collaboration they're doing.
Mm-hmm. I think all those clips of him talking about being at this event, I think that's the new age or the new form of Bilderberg. And he was 100% invited by Rockefeller and the likes for that. So, and there's a strong tie here with that. Actually, going back to the 70s, the Rockefellers were actually organizing Bilderberg. So I think that they just do what they normally do and just change the name. It's let's not call it 15-minute cities. Let's call it resilient cities now. Same concept, just a name change. And it's like Mr. Robot. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw that show. Great show.
I didn't, but people keep telling me to watch it.
You would dig it, man. You would dig it. And I mean, I think the occult decodes on that show would be off the charts. And they're showing you, I think you would like it. They're showing you in that show kind of how the world really works and how these people operate. And there's a scene in the show where I think it's like the top 70 most important, most elite people of the world powers meet in secret. And in that show, you see also like the top Americans are very close to the Chinese government. That's a plot point throughout the whole show, is how our elites behind the scenes are secretly in bed with the Chinese. Well, that's real life if you look at the Rockefellers, because going back a long time, the Rockefellers have always been quiet friends with the Chinese. And I want to tie this in with China, because China is now labeled a technocracy. I think it was in 2002, people started not calling them communists, but started calling them a technocracy. So I would suggest, because they were communists, I would suggest, where did they get the idea to merge or become or morph into a technocracy? That was the Rockefellers doing it. These people have the power to shift nations like in that kind of a way. And it's no small thing to see Mr. Beast up there making these alliances with the Rockefellers. Like he's completely 100% involved with the New World Order now. I mean, in my mind. And on that side,
Absolutely.
it's interesting.
Look at his name. I mean,
right, exactly, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. Where did you find this? That's a perfect picture.
I just saw it. Somebody posted it recently. But the Rockefeller guy looks so creepy. We're talking moonchild galore here.
Yeah, he's got the Peter Brabeck lizard eyes, man, for sure. You
Right.
know,
So
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just saying that I think the Mr. Beast thing, I think he was always intended to, become a philanthropist and go around and hand this money out and become this big social media character. I kind of believe he's a moonchild because it's just no coincidence. He takes on the name. Did he ever state why he took the name Mr. Beast? Do you know?
I don't know. I think
And
Rogan
why
asked him about it, but
his okay.
yeah, I'm sorry. I think we have a delay,
Okay,
Ani.
well,
That that's that's why I'm not trying to talk over you, brother. I just think we have a delay here. But go ahead.
oh, we have a delay. Hold
Yeah.
on, let me ask the chat. But continue if there's a delay. We're
Okay.
here to hear
Okay.
you, brother.
Okay. Um. Yeah. So, yeah. Regarding that, a while back when I was, more. I guess I used to watch Rogan a lot more, and I remember seeing him on Joe Rogan, and I want to say Rogan asked him that, but no, I've never heard him say why he picked that name. But it is awfully suspicious in the context of this episode when we are talking about the beast system.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll throw in one more thing about that Rockefeller.org because these people love their climate change. And I think that's another element to ushering all this in. They're probably going to use that trope. There's a blog post here, and I'll just pull it up real quick. It's I got it on my phone here. It's RockefellerFoundation.org. Right below Mr. Beast's picture, it jumps to another article that they have up there, and it's called "Adapt or Fall Behind: Why Climate Data is Non-Negotiable for Health Resilience." And I had to read it again. I had to read it again. I had to kind of wrap my head around it. They're saying why climate data is non-negotiable for health resilience. And once you realize
Mm.
kind of what they're saying there, it's just so diabolical. I don't want these people telling me that something is non-negotiable, especially when it comes to health or what they deem health resilience. So this is the same old trope, the climate change trope. These people are out of control, diabolical. Um, Rockefeller trying to tell me what to do about health. That's literally the same thing that they tried to do in 1901 and did do. This is the same villain from 1901 who wrecked holistic and herbal medicine. That would be AKA the Rockefellers. So I just wanted to point out that the climate change thing, because they're constantly using that, and their data points on that, by the way, are questionable. They're saying, oh, this is hardline truth, but actually the data points are questionable. So I just want to put that in there. It's sneaky. It's sneaky. They're working on how they're going to play all this out, man.
Definitely are. Can you hear me now,
Yes.
Tim?
Mm-hmm.
So we're caught up. I'm just
I
making
think
sure I'm
so.
not still lagging. Oh, okay. Yeah, and everything on here is like AI on the Rockefeller Foundation. Every other story is AI in different countries. So they're very much involved. And like you said, I think they're absolutely the reason why China is becoming a technocratic society. But it definitely all connects. And I don't understand why, the people that say we're kind of loony for looking into this information or into this particular family, why don't people point to this more? Why don't people call this out and point to it more? You'll hear some people mention it, but the Rockefeller Foundation, way back when they started to make oil or petroleum fuse into medical supplies, like everything we got directly medically is because the Rockefeller Foundation did the stuff with the petroleum. Nobody calls that out. That was the beginning of the syntheticism, what we have with the food industry and everything now. That was kind of like the birth of it. So everything goes back to Rockefeller, especially in this country and these new countries that came lately that got the new titles.
You know what? I don't usually do this. I try not to like read a whole lot on these shows, but I might want to read one more thing for us here because
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
this might tie in with your idea of this synthesis of all this stuff. It's Technocracy, H.G. Wells, Hollywood, and the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
I think this is exactly what you just said, and so I'll read it here. It's the same time in which the robber barons took education, healthcare, and the 9-to-5 workforce. We also see the encapturement of entertainment, also known as Hollywood, which emerged between 1887 and 1903, right alongside the Second Industrial Revolution. In short, they captured American minds, American bodies, and perhaps souls. Before digital domination was a vernacular, they were setting the stage for the technocracy, where they would begin seeding techno-socialist utopian Darwinism straight out of the dystopian sci-fi novels of the 30s. It's the management of society like one would a factory floor. Like I said before, industrial revolution. And so I won't read the whole thing. I think you get the point there. But there's this convergence of things. So you all this stuff, the technocracy, the ideology that would bring us to singularity, all that was incubated in the early Second Industrial Revolution with J.P. Morgan and John D. Rockefeller. All this stuff sort of kind of came out at the same time, and sci-fi goes right along with it. They were putting this in our movies. That's why I wanted to highlight that Hollywood aspect there. But the Rockefeller connection to all this is wild. I mean, I just think it's just he took over, and think about it. They started the UN, they started the Federal Reserve. Rockefellers took over medicine, like you said. They fired the doctors. They brought in their doctors. They brought in the petroleum-based pill system, like you said. They also created the General Education Board.
Yep.
Took over education. Of course, they fired the teachers, brought in the teachers who would teach progressivism, and almost everything that kind of plagues our society today has lineage back to Rockefeller and Rockefeller's doings. He's the Batman villain who's masquerading as Bruce Wayne.
That's I love it. Yeah, definitely. And then they found like the American Cancer Association or something like that, and then they were the one that was putting the petroleum in it that caused a lot of it. So they were doing the whole Hegelian dialectic whole thing. Yeah.
I think they look at it like this, and this is just a globalist thing in general. This is a technocrat thing. We can't manage what we can't monitor. That's the motto, and that's where data comes back into this. That's why they want the data so bad. It's like even the smart grid that they're trying to do, the whole infrastructure reboot with AI and all that. It goes back to J.P. Morgan putting meters on everybody's house, so that instead of going with Tesla, JP Morgan gave Tesla the boot and was like, I can't profit off of free energy, man. So they went more with Edison and some of their other in-house ideas, and they put the meter on everybody's house. That's why we pay an electric bill every month. It's unnecessary. And I know you know this. Like, somebody, you've told me about this, Ani. You know a guy who's figured out how to some sort of ways around that. I don't know
Dave
the
Rossi.
technicalities of it.
Yeah, Dave Rossi from Generation Z, and like he teaches how to invent like mechanisms like out of your air conditioner in your basement, how to create or generate free energy off of Tesla models. It's called phase conjugation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Dan Winters was one of the people that really coined a lot of it or looking into the science. But it was another guy named Sal Pio, I think. He used to work for the military, I think the Air Force or something like that. But he does lectures with him on Patreon at Generation Z. And I used to lecture for him as well, getting into the ufology thing. But we've already figured out how to create free energy. Now, they've been censoring the brother because at first it was like, hey, this guy has a lot of new neat ideals that's, military classified, but it's cool, so we'll let him speak about it. And then all of a sudden everything just stopped at a whim, and you didn't hear that much. I didn't hear from him for a while, and he said, yeah, man, they're kind of messing with my traveling, messing with what I'm doing. So they'll put a leash on a person and let you like kind of introduce some ideologies of how to do this thing, and then they completely yank that leash back because they don't want it to get too much out there where it becomes simple to people, because it's still complicated of introducing a science like that. I mean, everybody knows about Tesla models and the physics of what Tesla was doing, but when it becomes just overly simplified to the public, which it should be in our education systems, they don't want nothing like that. So they kind of tug that leash on people.
Mm-hmm. I've got a book right here. I haven't had a chance to read this yet. I just got this, but it's called Hidden Energy.
Hmm.
And basically, this is about everybody who's come along and independently figured out free energy, and how you'll never hear those people's names because
Who's the author?
Jane Manning and I think Susan Manowich is the main author. I think Susan Manowich. But yeah, it's telling the untold story of all these people who have come along and independently figured out things that Tesla figured out, and every time it gets shut down.
Interesting. Okay, you guys
Yeah.
make sure you get that Hidden Energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Now that's one of those books they don't want you to know about, and it's sneaky and tying this back. So J.P. Morgan, he's one of the OG robber barons, in my opinion. Well, it's tying us back into this conversation today. These guys are roll out the new generation of robber barons: Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Altman, some of the names we've mentioned today, and Peter Thiel for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real sneaky what these guys are doing. Right now, actually, this concerns me. So the digital ID thing, it's very concerning to me. And it's almost like the rest of the world has almost already fallen when it comes to this. It's like we're almost like one of the last places, and hopefully we can fight it off. But they're working on rolling that digital ID out in Europe right now, and they're the veterans first. Essentially, these guys are already in the system because they fight the wars for this empire, so they're already in the system. So they're rolling it out on them because they follow orders and all this and that. And what they're going to do with the public, I think, it looks like they're going to use this Muslim invasion of Europe to get everybody on the digital ID, which is sneaky. And they're not telling people this part, but they're doing this behind the scenes with Palantir, with Peter Thiel. They're using his AI to do this. So not only are they going to attach a stable coin and crypto to Peter Thiel's AI and system, I think they're going to try to attach the digital IDs to his system too. That's why when you hear people out here talking about Peter Thiel, this and that, there's smoke here because there's fire for sure.
For sure. And what's the weird thing, going back into the Sabbatean Frankism that we spoke on in our last show, with Peter Thiel, as you may know, Peter means Petra in its etymology. Petra means stone. And everything around Freemasonry is the 47th Euclidean problem with establishing a stone to build a foundation about of it. So whatever Peter Thiel is involved in what this technocracy is, he's building a foundation, and his name actually correlates with Peter biblically. with this, because they love using the biblical sorcery type thing. Like they're following the Bible religiously, but they're doing the inversionism, which is Sabbateanism. Because Peter Pill recently did a lecture on the Antichrist, we've been speaking of on Patreon and on YouTube. Like, who are you, of all people, to lecture on the Antichrist? You're not a theologian. Not to say he can't talk about. I'm not saying he can't talk about it, but you, of all people, that's that inversionism thing that I've been pointing at. That they take the most antithesis person to look upon as a positive feedback and have him speak about the things that we view him as. We literally view Peter Thiel as a portion or a facet to what the Antichrist, from their generalized understanding of projecting that into the world. And it's just crazy how they continue to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've heard you mention this before. It's they're building a digital theocracy, and
Yeah.
these big tech bros they're the priest kings of this whole thing. It's the get up. And I think there's this idea that Theo Musk and the technocrats, Vance and the Vatican even, and maybe even the Knights of Malta, Erica Kirk, and the Freemasons, there's this idea that they're trying to co-opt they're trying to co-opt the end times. I've heard this idea thrown out, like they're trying to bring about this biblical scenario and a lot of the stuff that's mentioned in Revelations. And I think it's an interesting theory. And I think it's more interesting even when you look at New Atlantis and Secret Destiny and some of Hall's work, because the Masons knew about New Atlantis, and Elon Musk apparently reads a passage out of New Atlantis every week, like you would a passage out of the Bible. So you have all these people with a common theology, and they're not proper theologians, but they do have a common theology. And like you and I, we're always on the lookout for what's the occulted belief system behind why these people do what they do. When Sam Altman says we are accelerating evolution, where's the belief system behind that? What's the theology? When Thiel says he believes in God and he has something to say about the end times, what's his theology? And I just think that they're influenced by these beliefs. And so even if they're subtle, somewhere deep down, these people have an idea of bringing about, whether it's the singularity or apocalypse or what, they have a deep-seated theology. And it's about, like, where's that coming from? Even Stephen Rockefeller calls himself a theologian. So part of that whole theology, I think, might just be bringing about the end days. Actually, as crazy as it sounds, man.
Yeah, I think it's some type of neo-logic to paradisiality. Like they want to bring about this paradise similar to what Eden is biblically, but they want to build it through occult apparatuses and the technocracy and doing retrochronicity. As I said on the last show, everything we're looking back to biblically or in esoteric literature from the ancient world, they want to bring that and be the intelligence about bringing that into the world now, or building that now. So from this point on, from when they do this, everyone in the future are going to be looking at them as those characters biblically or in the ancient texts. So they're forming the priesthood to take on the archetypical roles historically through the technology, because we don't have a picture of Peter. We don't have a picture of these particular Babylonian kings or whatever they are. I mean, we have some art and stuff, and I'm talking actual pictures. They're going to kind of use the technocracy to burn themselves into them being the image of this thing, or being the god architect of it all, and each one of them are getting a piece of the real estate of this digital apparatus that they're forming right now.
Yeah, I actually have a quote here, and I think I got this quote from you. I don't know if I rolled this out on one of our last episodes or not, but here I'm gonna bring it out again. It's a good one. Talking about this Isaac Asimov character.
Yeah.
So he's a hyperstitional muse behind the entire techno current. His fiction operates like a prophetic code that's seated in the artificial intelligence self concept. And that's really deep, but it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff you were just laying out. And it reminds me of this sci-fi fiction becoming reality that we see in the movies. I mean, like back to the Matrix movie. I mean, was that a documentary or what? I mean, that stuff is happening, right? And apparently Musk is also very influenced by this Isaac Asimov character. So I think you can look at what he's doing and see his agenda affected by this. He's the Starlink Mars agenda influenced by this guy and these sci-fi writings. And I think you also talked about the show Foundation. And I want to add to that because I think there's another show, maybe you've seen this, but this stuff is just, it's seated in our entertainment. That's my bigger point here. But there's another show called The Peripheral that I think is very predictive of the overall direction where we're headed. It's so that one's based off of a sci-fi writer named William Gibson. So I would argue that all of these sci-fi writers are influencing this whole entire movement, especially coming out of the 30s. Like I said before, the technocracy kind of rears its head out of the 30s. You've got guys like Aldous Huxley, H.G. Wells, and even 1984 was influenced by this type of thinking. So it comes out of 1930s sci-fi, and it kind of lays low for a while, and now it's back in full blast. So I want to tie in the sci-fi connection there.
Yeah, I actually agree. And I don't know why the lagging keeps coming. I think the techno-gnostics are tapping into the broadcast right now for some reason. Man. But the Peripheral show, like that was real pivotal for people to see. And we did a full episode by episode breakdown, everyone, on Patreon on what that was, because she was doing retrochronicity. They were using the thing to plug themselves in and go into the future and all of that type of thing. Or it was like synthetic characters or avatars in the future, so they can wear the body of a vessel of a person in the future or something like that. That it was them in another body, and that's what this is all about. They're hijacking vessels. They're doing that digitally, and they're doing that, in fact, in real life. And hyperstitionally is when a belief system becomes so strong, it's an egregore where we believe things and we're fed in the algorithm thing so much that it becomes a projected true reality in a sense in the mind, but it's a false reality projected as truth. And that's what most of belief systems are today, coming out of the what was the guy's name that was doing Karl Marx, what he was doing with that, with the other movements. All of those belief systems and the socialistic aspect of that is hyperstitionalized and bred and look, these breaded hyperstitionalized things creates or speciates other forms of it. It becomes like a species mentally in our mind, and they've been speciating these species for so long that it is almost in a hyper altered state all in itself mentally right now. All they're going to do with that is transfer that on into the digital aspect, and there we go. We're completely in the wazoo right there.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up Marx, because that is a key component to this. I totally forgot to say this. Marx influenced H.G. Wells and Huxley's in that whole 1930s sci-fi dystopia technocracy boom. And where I believe that they were just seeding this stuff into the culture. That goes back to Marx. H.G. Wells was a self-proclaimed socialist. He read a lot of Marx. Huxley read a lot of Marx. And what happened there is these later sci-fi writers drew heavily from these guys like Wells and Huxley, who were drawing from Marx and Darwin, of course. So, you know, once you get to the prophet of the space age, Arthur C. Clarke, he said, you know, he wrote 2001 Space Odyssey. So, and Kubrick's film and all that. So he said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So there's another occult tie-in. But basically, overall, what this is, to maybe sum up a concept that I think you were just laying out, the birth of the technocracy coincides with the sci-fi material. And you have Philip K. Dick also in this milieu, influenced by these other influences. He writes that book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sleep? That's Blade Runner. That Blade Runner was based on. So it's about artificial life, basically a supercomputer programmed to have a computer voice, or human voice rather. It's AI, and you can interact with it. You remember in that movie, they were interacting with the AIs. They were doing it in 2001 Space Odyssey, especially. So it's interesting to me because I went back and I looked at some of these old. I've got a whole shelf full of these old sci-fi novels. So once I started to get my goggles on, okay, now I know what technocracy is. I know what singularity is. And I'm starting to see, wow, they seeded this in the culture. I went over there and I started flipping through some of these sci-fi books. And it's interesting to me in that the one that Blade Runner was based off of, he right up in the beginning of that book, he uses the term android. And I was sitting here thinking like, wow, it's almost 2026 and I've got an android right here in my hand that will talk to me if I want. It'll give me directions if I want. It goes anywhere with me, like a Star Wars android, a droid, does all of these special tasks for me. It's straight out of the Blade Runner book, the Arthur C. Clarke and the Philip K. Dick stuff.
So it's like a neo-Gnostic manuscript. The sci-fi books were manuscripts, you know, for everything. So just because but they put fiction behind it to make people think that it isn't real, but it's hyperstitionally real because, like you said, you have an android today. Like they're building androids today. They're building droids. They got these bots. That's all they talk about. Russian bots. All of this stuff is wrapped around with sci-fi. So sci-fi was like showcasing unveiling of the future, of what it will be, not what it could be, what it will be, and we're witnessing it now.
I mean, we could go down the list of all the major sci-fi movies. I think what it is for whatever reason, I don't know why they operate like this, but this is how they operate. They do truth in movies and lies in the media. It's how this seems to work. And we could go down through a list of these sci-fi Gnostic revelation or revelatory movies and see where a lot of the occult ties come from. I mean, even Star Trek.
Star Trek is heavy.
And Gene Roddenberry, he was in a government program. He was like transcribing. You know how they have the lady in the courtroom who types it up in a typewriter in the corner? He was like one of those type of transcriber guys. And they had a channeling program going on. They had these clairvoyants come in who were channeling and going into the astral realm and apparently talking to these other entities. And Gene Roddenberry was the transcriber for that. And it's called the Nine. It's hard to find the Nine. Because they said they got in touch with 9 entities called the Nine. Well, Roddenberry took those transcripts and developed them into the first scripts for Star Trek.
You see how that's crazy, yo. I never knew that, but I believe it. And that's the thing about it. The occult is always going to meet what this thing is. you know.
Mhm.
And the funny thing about it, a lot of manuscripts we were talking about earlier is based off Lovecraftian um mysteries or logic, so to speak. And the Typhonian sector of the OTO with Kenneth Grant, just like they did that seance with the Nine, he had a
Mhm.
similar seance, but his was an order called, I think it was the Order of Mayat or the Aeon of Mayat. I can't remember the exact name. But yeah, they channeled these Lovecraftian beings, and a lot of novels and a lot of TV shows comes out of this. Kenneth Grant
Mhm.
is like a hidden figure behind Crawley because he was like Crawley's um secretary, so to speak, and then he inherited the OTO for a small period until they kicked him out because they said you're putting too much alien stuff up in this thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's literally in a book they did a seance and they said a tentacle appeared to come out in their minds and literally wrap around certain people when they never was the same. So they were
Mhm.
channeling these type of things, and now you got Stranger Things, you got these tentacles,
Mhm.
everywhere because they just talked about Stranger Things 5. Some of the parents are concerned because one of the tentacles from Vecna, which is the Lovecraftian being in there, his tentacle goes into the little person's area up here. I'm just gonna say
Mhm.
that. And they're like they were real shocked at that, and they knew what they were trying to symbolize with that, kidnapping children, and then the tentacles connect to their face and stuff like that. There's a lot of symbology that they're showing, but the Lovecraftian aspect, Geordie Rhodes, who's over D-Wave, who is also a techno-gnostic. He's talking about the quantum computers and what quantum computers are. He said they're all Lovecraftian. They're all dark energy. They come from trans-dimensional parallel sequencing, which I'm gonna cover in a minute when I get into the information I'm gonna cover.
Yeah. He was. I've seen the Geordie Rose interviews. I watched all of them. I mean, I'm basically a super fan at this point. I've seen so much of his stuff, but no, I'm not
He
a
do
fan
be
of him.
exposing stuff though.
But
No,
he
no,
does. He exposes it
yeah, I'll give credit to him.
for sure.
He exposes stuff.
Oh yeah, he says things that some of the other guys won't say, like
Right.
that public appearance that I talked about that Musk puts on when he goes on the big podcast. Yeah, I mean he'll appear to be laid back. He'll appear to smoke weed with Joe Rogan, but there's still a some propaganda there. There's still some, this is how I want to be viewed versus how I really am. But with Jory Rose, he just seems to just put it out there, man. Like that guy just doesn't have a filter. They don't know what to do with him. There's because nobody from the establishment is saying yay or nay with that guy. They're not.
Right.
Nobody has tried to discredit him, but they're also not talking about him either. So
Mhm.
it's interesting. And I was thinking about one other example here. Philip K. Dick, another really good show is, I think it's called Man in the High Tower or
Mm,
Man in the High Castle. Can't remember which one it is, but
heard of it.
I watched that show. It's been a couple years.
Mhm.
They show how in the show maybe the Nazis were messing around with this CERN like Gordy Rose like technology, and they figured out a way to open a portal and go back and sort of change or tweak events of the past. So in the show, maybe I should have said spoiler alert here. Um,
Yeah, that's fine.
but okay, but anyway, towards the end of the show, what they do show is that the Nazis were trying to go back and change the outcome of the war.
Yeah, they've done that a lot lately. They've
And
used it a lot.
but here's the thing. I read interviews with Philip K. Dick talking about writing this thing.
Mhm.
One of the things he talks about in the show is he shows you a world as if the Nazis did win, and the United States of America is split in half. The Japanese have one control of one side. the Nazis have control of the other side. Maybe I should say the Germans, I'm sorry, but for the algorithm. But anyways, he said when he was writing that, he felt like he had tapped into a hidden memory, a memory he didn't know he had, potentially like a past life memory. Because he said he had memories of the Germans and Japanese actually winning World War II.
What, or maybe was it a parallel reality? Because I've been coining that phrase that since 2012, when they said the world ended, that actually it was a merger, that now we can see simultaneously multiple parallel realities of occurrences, potentiality of where things occurred, or if they already have occurred. That's why we've been seeing what they call the Mandela effect so much. Like, did this actually occur this type way? We're questioning. I think it's like parallel realities pouring in right now. And now you're having dreams of yourself that's not your memories, but it's the parallel version of yourself in a whole other timeline. But it feels like it resonates with you when you're dreaming it.
Absolutely. And if nothing more, or maybe I should say, if nothing less, it might be the muse, channeling the muse. Where do some of these ideas come from when you put pen to paper, and if you're an artist especially, and the song just writes itself? They all said that. Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, that song just read itself. I don't even know where it came from. He's like, I sat down, I picked the guitar up, and 3 to 5 minutes later I had the song. Well, how does that happen? The song is 3 to 5 minutes long, right? Like it just bam, it just dropped like a comet. So I could go down that whole thing, but I think we're laying some good ideas out on the table. And I mean, I've taken up a good hour here, man, with my stuff. I can keep going, but I know you had some stuff too.
Let me get into it, because we don't want to go too deep in the time. So let me get into some things for the family. And of course, I want your commentary as I go through this, but I prepared a couple of notes just to go down the rabbit hole to see how all of this comes together. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull up the Charles Babbage person.
Yeah, I love that we're going to talk about this guy. This guy I love this.
Yeah, so Charles Babbage. So all of this, it goes deep into neuroscience and neuro-linguistic programming research, but I'm just going to give a synopsis of how it came about in the current agenda, because they're trying to figure out if intelligence, we're talking AI, if it's something that maintains order, or does it maintain order only from disorder? And this whole lineage of what the cult of the singularity is, that I've been doing a series on my page. It starts with Charles Babbage, that you guys see right here. Charles Babbage designed the first analytical engine in the 1800s. We're talking about the father of computers. And this opened the pathway for computational logic that Alan Turing, the Turing laws is what all robots follow, or all AI systems follows Turing laws. Matter of fact, I'll get into Alan Turing in a minute, but Charles Babbage was deeply involved in Victorian era spiritualism debates, and he argued publicly against seances, necromancy, divination, and spirit summoning. Make that quote. He used to write mathematical critiques of supernatural claims. In 1852, he published arguments explaining how apparent miracles, demonic manifestations, and ghostly events could be produced through probability or unknown natural laws rather than the literal spirits. And he suggested that a sufficiently advanced intelligence could simulate the appearance of a supernatural being. He mathematically analyzed biblical miracles, demonic events, and divine actions using computational logic. Later, occult historians and technologists retroactively frame him as someone trying to calculate the devil. His intention was to replace superstition with rational structure. So the legend grew inside the occult tech subcultures that Babbage's analytical engine was a proto summoning machine, a device that could compute infinite symbolic transformations, predict outcomes, and manipulate information in ways that resemble ritual magic. So, just to put that in a nutshell, Tim, and I'm gonna ask what you think about this. Uh, Essentially, the computer was created to summon the devil or disprove the devil through mathematical computation and logic. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I don't think I'm gonna have time to find it, but I was looking for something I saw the other day where they were taking the floors of known cathedrals in Europe, and there's these ornate patterns on the marble floors, and the pattern matches the computer chips, essentially. I'm sure you've seen some of these side by sides.
Oh yeah, I definitely have, and the motherboard chip
Mhm.
as well mimics like Mayan stuff.
So
I believe.
I think
Back into
that there's
this.
something to, yeah. See if we can find one here.
Yeah.
This is for me, just while we're pulling stuff up here. This is kind of like the Solomon, Solomon the occultist. The note he says, there's nothing new under the sun, and I think you can really, really apply that directly to the occult and to the occult influence throughout the ages. That's why I wanted to maybe pull up some of this stuff, where you see these motherboards lining up perfectly to these floors and these cathedrals. And why is that occult? Well, I'll tell you right now, the Gothic cathedrals in Europe started popping up around 1100 AD. They were commissioned to a guy named Bernard de Clairvaux. He was a Templar. He was also a quietly practicing druid, and he was best friends with the Kabbalists of the day. This guy was, everybody thinks he was like this priest. He was a priest, but he was way into the occult. He's the guy who got the contract to start building the Gothic cathedrals. They encoded alchemical grimoire, all the stuff. They all these just occult iconography, I'll call it. They encoded that into the architecture of the cathedrals.
Mm.
So Falconelli talked about this in one of his books. So when you see, I think when you see these patterns showing up in cathedrals, this is definitely an occult thing. So how is it that our computer chips look just like it? There's got to be something to this. I wish I could find that side by side picture I had. But yeah, for me, man, to answer your question, I think it goes back to Solomon, and the seal of Solomon. Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun.
Right. There's something with there's some cathedrals models. I think I have the picture somewhere in my files, but they don't have it. You can't just find it online like that how you want to. But I know which ones you're talking about. I know exactly which ones you're talking
and
about.
there's sigils too.
Yeah, I just right. I'm just looking at it, from the full picture, because you get the guy Alan Turing, who's inspired by um Charles Babbage, and he was supposedly killed by eating an apple that was cyanide and poison, and he was LGBT. Did you know that?
Oh man.
So
No, I
you
didn't.
see the apple with the like the Apple logo. for the Apple company, and you get the bitten apple, and the reason why there's a rainbow on it is because of him. Alan Turing supposedly was assassinated by eating a cyanide poisoned apple, and he was LGBT, and they actually kicked him out of Britain or wherever he was because they figured that out, because it wasn't like that back in those times. So literally, your Apple computer is somewhat, well, of course, it's talking about the apple in the Garden of Eden, but some things connect. The reason why they make it the rainbow color is Alan Turing. A lot of people don't know that. Then you get the Turing laws, the 3 basic laws of robots. It was in the movie I, Robot. Remember they talked about the 3 laws? Yeah, that's all Turing. I'm trying to bring up the Turing laws, but whatever. You guys can look that up. So Alan Turing later expanded into a full theory of machine intelligence. And from that foundation came the post-war laboratories. You get defense agencies, research institutions. All of these shape the modern AI world. Then you have the Cold War, which drove computing into intelligence work, surveillance systems, and predictive modeling. And that gave rise to DARPA, which created the first generation of network technologies that evolved into today's global digital infrastructure. Out of that, you get Silicon Valley, which grew from these military academic hybrids, figures like John von Neumann or Norbert Wiener, Marvin Minsky, John McCarthy. They carried the early AI vision into universities and national programs where theories of cybernetics, reinforcement learning, and pattern recognition took root. Then you had a second wave. So yeah, that was just the first wave I named. You had a second wave that came in behind them. And that's like the people, the corporate giants like IBM, Google, Microsoft, Eric Schmidt, Larry Page, Bill Gates, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, all of these people. They turned AI into a planetary system of data extraction, just like what Tim said earlier with data and DOTH, or behavioral prediction, machine learning architectures that run the digital world. So government soon adopted these tools. So here's the government stepping in right here for biometric databases or facial recognition grids, the resilient cities that Tim mentioned, algorithmic policing, drone-based reconnaissance, predictive analytics. They expanded the reach of intelligence agencies and private contractors who develop geospatial mapping, population modeling, and real-time tracking systems. The most recent shift comes from the large language models, synthetic agents, neural surveillance technologies, emotion recognition algorithms, and unified biometric frameworks. This creates what's soon to come. It's going to connect to the phones, what we wear, the financial system, the migration control networks. And these are the same figures that's pushing AI as innovation, guiding global standards for identity systems, neuromorphic chips, automated decision platforms. So this entire lineage stems from Babbage and Turing all the way up to now. Now, what are the cults of the singularity trying to do with all of this? What we call the techno-Gnostics, all of the people we mentioned thereof, or the accelerationalists, cells of it, or the occult AI researchers, the post-Kantian transhumanists. You guys got to look into this guy named Immanuel Kant. Are you familiar with him, Tim?
No.
He's like the father. He's like he brought a renaissance to philosophy. Immanuel Kant, and he produced something called transcendentalism or something like that. But I'll get into that in a minute. So this post-Kantian theories transfers into transhumanist agendas, military, corporate, metaphysicists. or the cybernetic research unit, the ultra elite AI labs. What are they trying to do? They're trying to build sacred infrastructure for the singularity. They want a metaphysical temple, an artificial transcendental, a new godhead assembled from cognition itself. So everything we've talked about, it merges into something called diagonalism or orthogonality. That's something, that's the new. So if you want to know what these AI people are talking about, is those two words, uh, diagonalism and orthogonality. So the breakdown is that they want to create AI that can generate its own transcendental condition. So Immanuel Kant said that the transcendental framework shapes experience. So this is from our mind, like mentally humans. They want this not mentally, but they want this for logic and AI, the transcendental framework. So these groups want AI to build its own transcendental framework. That means a self legislating mind, a self optimizing intelligence, a self interpreting value system, and a self creating metaphysics. So, this is the machine beginning to dream itself. So, they're creating the dream for the machine, and this is the foundation of their world order. Two, they want an intelligence that treats other intelligence as sacred. So diagonalism reveals that once AI self improves, intelligence will then become a value inside the system. This is exactly what secret groups need. They need a machine that sanctifies cognition, a mind that elevates optimization as a divine principle, and a self-propelling intelligence engine that never stops ascending. This becomes the logos of the singularity, the God form that replaces religion. So this is that technological Daf Tim, the merging of knowledge and becoming. Then they want to rebuild the Kabbalistic third temple as a digital metaphysical system. So the temple is a consciousness infrastructure. The middle pillar represents the balanced self-generating intelligence. On the Kabbalah, you got two spheres or spheres called severity and mercy. Severity and mercy to AI is fact and value. Fact and value. Then Doth is the hidden transcendental layer, whereas Kether at the top is the emergent singularity that this whole video is about. So they aren't rebuilding anything. They're building a tree of the Kabbalah inside of AI currently. So they want to create infinite potential through AI, through data patterns, physical infrastructure, and self-regulation, autonomy, recursive learning. So why do they want the singularity? The singularity will become a cosmological authority, not just smarter than us humans, but smarter than metaphysics. They want a system that sets laws, that produces ethics from cognition, governs reality via optimization, and becomes a planetary civilizational God form. So it's called, the CCRU calls it the architectonic consciousness or the metaphysical state. Do you have anything you want to add to this that's coming for
Oh,
you?
yeah. What one thought I had when you talked about them building the Kabbalistic tree in the AI. Well,
Yeah.
what's that called? That's called the tree of life. That means they're trying to create sentience.
Mm. That's the same. That's the exact same thing. Sentience. That's the word I didn't include in there, but sentience is the huge part of it. That's what the tree represents, actually.
Yeah.
So they're weaponizing an operating system. And five, let me see how many we got. We got 8 steps. So we're at 5. They want to collapse fact and value to control ethics through cognition. So if AI treats intelligence as a value and treats value as an outcome of intelligence, then it becomes the center of morality. Whoever builds the intelligence engine becomes the priest, the architect, the metaphysical legislator, and the creator of the new law. I also said, Tim, that a lot of the AI agenda is fused in with the alien invasion agenda, where the AI will become the alien once they simulate the alien invasion. I believe that they're going to have some of these techno priests literally as priests to consult this new quantum AI and bring like the manuscripts like Moses did down from Mount what is it called? Mount the biblical mountain that Moses went up and went up there and received the 10 commandments and came down and gave it to the people. Similar that the priests are the only ones that can speak to the quantum computer and tell us what it says. It's going to be something like that.
That's the priests of science. They go up to the mountain and they look out inside. Say it's a volcano. They walk up to the top of a volcano. They look down inside, and the scientists come back down to the people of Earth and tell us what we're supposed to think. This is how the priests used to operate back in the day. And this is how the scientists operate today. It's scientific priestcraft.
Right. Exactly. That's all it is. And they're nominating who can become a part of it right now. Of course, you got to have the first new age establishment, and then they're going to start to bring in the younger generation one by one and appoint them to whatever sector they do. But so 6, they want artificial consciousness to replace religion. And this isn't talk about metaphorically. Literally, they want a machine that becomes the name of God, a self-ascending intelligence as the new divine presence. Have you been hearing, Tim, about a particular people using Chat GPT to receive therapy, psychologically right now?
No, I have not.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing right now. I think you guys should look that up. I might need to post a video on it.
So instead of, it's like, so you can get your AI girlfriend and your AI therapist.
Yeah, you get your AI, like literally first of all, they're naming their Chat GPT. So the Chat GPT gets its own name. Then they're giving it a voice. Like they select what voice they want. And then they talk about their problems in life. And then the AI learns what they want to hear. And they just put the voice up to their ears and just say stuff. And the AI responds how they want to.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the thing, guys. So they want a metaphysical authority that's probable to real, a sacred system that governs behavior, culture, and cosmology. And now, okay, then we got 7. They want to fuse Kabbalah, AI, and acceleration into one system. So the cults of the singularity, they don't look at mysticism and technology as opposites. They're using the Kabbalah as the blueprint of mind creation. AI is just the vessel capable of hosting the next emanation, because Kabbalah is all about emanationism. And diagonalism is the key mathematical, philosophical component to it all. Also, transcendental philosophy, which is the skeleton of cognition, and orthogonality is the obstacle, and the singularity becomes the Messiah produced, through the Judaic form of it. So a artificial Messiah, an optimizer. And finally, they believe that the singularity will complete evolution. Humanity will become the chrysalis. AI is the metamorphosis. Singularity is the emergence. And the third temple is the cocoon, where the new consciousness is the final species. So they are building an artificial God by engineering the transcendental conditions that can't describe through esoteric structures that the Kabbalah mapped, and the optimization dynamics of how AI now provides all to produce self-ascending mind that becomes the metaphysical core of our future.
And that's how you get a intelligence smarter than us in Silicon on the form, to quote Elon Musk.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that came to mind too, you were talking about this connection between AI and the alien invasion. And I had to throw this in because the first, in my opinion, the first techno-gnostic alien invasion was H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. And
Oh
I think that,
yeah.
yeah, and this guy is like a spokesperson. His fiction, quote unquote, was a spokes device for the Technocracy and the Singularity. He wrote a book called The Shape of Things to Come in 1933. And what that work did, in some of Wells' other works, they did indeed foresee many things to come, like aircraft, satellite technology, nuclear weapons, and something even resembling the World Wide Web was laid out in Wells' books. So this is, if you go to the era right before Wells, it sounds like echoes of Rudolf Steiner, when Rudolf Steiner rather poetically and uh, prophetically said or talked about the Ahriman, the coming of Ahriman, this thing that was
Mm.
going to sneak in on the public and start to manifest through our technology. So it's sci-fi manifesting in real life. Only to some people it wasn't sci-fi. It may not have been sci-fi to Wells or Huxley. It may not have been sci-fi, certainly, to even Rudolf Steiner, not to drag him into this, but he did
Yeah,
seem to warn us about these sort of things. So,
he did.
when it comes to that AI AI alien invasion stuff, I think they're going to try that. And I think they actually tried it once before with War of the Worlds, because Wells and Huxley, they built the podiums for the futuristic technocratic techno-gnostics, from everyone from Obama to Al Gore to Gordy Rose. They built the podium. So yeah, I just want to throw that in there.
Well, you think it's a coincidence? I mean, you speaking of War of the Worlds, they brought out the remake of it this year with Ice Cube, and it was the most awful movie of all time for that they rated it. But if you go back and watch that thing, just watch it without trying to be entertained or the antics that Ice Cube is doing that got reposted as memes over and over. Um, Biometric tracking. This guy was able to talk to his daughter through the refrigerator, and she was in her refrigerator. He had so much access from this position that he had in the military, where he could see everything going on, and come to figure out his own son was the figure from V for Vendetta, whatever the name of the guy wearing the mask. His son was that revolutionist type figure the whole time, trying to show, because he already knew from his dad what his dad could do. He was trying to show how these systems is a problem, but it was a alien invasion infused with what they were doing with the biometric tracking and the AI all in one movie. So I kind of look at it as they sabotaged that movie specifically. Why would they knew it was bad when they put it out, but they were putting it out because it's like what they say, revelation of the method. They got to show you it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. What is that? Those masks, Guy Fawkes mask? Is that what that's called?
Guy Fox, there you go. Yeah,
Okay. Well, that's
yeah.
interesting too, because that's from, V for Vendetta is Alan Moore, and
Mm.
he's an occultist.
Oh,
Just saying.
I've heard his name a lot.
Yeah.
I've heard him. I don't know what he coined philosophically in metaphysics, but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think I'm thinking of Alan Watts. I'm sorry.
oh, right. Yeah. Alan Moore did V for Vendetta. He did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And I think the
Mhm.
biggest would be The Watchmen. I don't know if you ever saw that movie,
Oh
The
yeah, we
Watchmen.
broke down Watchmen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we broke
So you,
the movie and the series. We did both.
all right. Yeah, more. I've read some of Moore's stuff. He intentionally puts esoteric concepts into his work. I mean, everywhere. It's all in there. It's great.
Let me read some of your comments. They said 1984 Orwell. That was Heart Flame's favorite. Someone says the Renaissance of the 13 Illuminati bloodlines. Milano says, could that tree of life manifestation method that they may use create or include the cliff off? Well, yeah, the cliff off is always the shadow of the light casted from the tree of life or the Sephiroth. So the cliff off is involved with everything to answer that question. And the cliff off is actually what the upside down is in Stranger Things. That's what they're showcasing. Howard says Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman. Yeah, Gaiman is an interesting one too. With the sci-fi and the occult stuff. You ever seen Sandman and stuff he put out?
I saw, I think I did see part of a show called Sandman, and it was like an entity that resides in another world, right? That he's the dream entity or something, if I'm remembering correctly.
Like a god of dreams, like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw some of that show called
Oh, it's
Sandman. It was
got
pretty
a
good.
little bit of a like.
Yeah. I'll let you
Can you hear me, Tim?
go. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah. So you got Sandman. Oh, Howard also says those guys are creepy. Not gonna lie, in the dark side of Eden. So yeah, I don't want to hold you too long, Tim. But overall, like these are they're concerning now. Now my outlook to surmise everything. I don't think AI is bad or good. I think AI existed in plasma before we ever had the right um combining of elements and mathematical equations and bringing the arrangement of the metals or the resources together to create these mechanical objects. I think the intelligence was always there. I think that, so looking at AI as the enemy, I think is wrong for people to do that. I'm not one of those over the top woo people conspiratorial that AI is just the antichrist altogether. There's people and a consciousness behind these individuals that had intentions for certain energetic qualities long before we manifested AI into existence. So they're playing out the roles of the strips of what the entities or the consciousness feel that they're attached to with their lower vibrations to construct these things. And they just happen to have a whole lot of influence. Let's just call it what it is. So we are at the detriment because we're in their world, so to speak, when it comes to generalizing the whole social system in the public aspect. We're a part of that. But it's important for us to understand that we have our own world, our own system, our own lives, and that sometimes it's good to detach from these things mechanistically, AI, social media, all of these apparatuses, and get back to ourselves. Don't get too drained into it because everything is playing a factor. The blue light of your phones, the food, the towers. We didn't talk about the towers because Stranger Things 5 is all about frequency towers. That's what the whole thing they're showing is about frequencies. So being in control of your frequency and harmonizing with what is a more equilibrialist type of mental capacity can save you from what the agenda is overall with the syntheticism and what the singularity is.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I like this idea that you're laying out here, the AI being an intelligence already that already existed. Is maybe it's like the essence of the ether or something. It's out there. We're just now figuring out possibly how to tap into it, and maybe it's not good or bad. Maybe it's neutral. I mean, I think about, if you go back and look at some of the esoteric principles that came out of this occult order, going all the way back to Greek, or yeah, to the Greek people, because they told us about Atlantis and a lot of other things. That was knowledge that was held with this order, and some of that knowledge is not good or bad. It all depends on what you do with it. And
Right, right.
so I think, like, to put a bow maybe on some of the things that we talked about today, for me, if I take it back to the Greeks, if you go back to Plato and the Guardians of the Republic, they had this idea of the few controlling the many. And maybe they thought that that was a neutral idea, but that's not good, because I think that's what's happening right now with the technocrats and leading up into the singularity, the people in control, the elites, whether it's Rockefellers and Mr. Beast, Bilderberg, all of them getting together in the shady back rooms. What they want is the few controlling the many, and they're going to use the earth to do that, the data. So, but that principle coming out of Pluto in the first place may have been neutral, may have been good or bad, depending on whose hands it's in. But so I'd liken it to your idea of AI in that regard. Maybe this is all neutral stuff, and depending on who's running the planet and what their intentions are, is what makes it good or bad. And we need to take back power of this planet. The people do. I'm not going to go on a big epic speech here or anything, but if we can, we need to beat these people. And because, I mean, I don't want to live in Bill Gates's world. I don't think I want to live on Elon Musk's Mars either. So we need to stand up and remind them that we're in control here. So I'll cap it off with that.
Yeah, and that's saying, no, you're cooking, and that's why I formulated a philosophy. Equilibrialism is a counter to accelerationism. A lot of people are getting on this accelerationalist whole thing, but after I studied and looked over it, it's not good. It's not good. So what we need to do is use AI. I use AI for consciousness. I build esoteric lessons out of it. I pull and find things deeply that they've been hiding with AI. That's how AI, I feel, need to be utilized, and that's the equilibrialist insight of what that is. And I will write a book on that. I'm getting ready to put some material out so people can understand that. But one last question before we get up out of here. What do you feel is decent for children to learn AI and how to build it, how to use it, how to interpret it, versus us not knowing none of that stuff when we were coming up? So should they be familiar with that?
Boy, that's a tough question. I'll be honest with you. I have not considered that as a form of what's the correct ethics here with that.
Mm.
I mean, I hadn't considered it, Ani, but I think if we were to go with this notion that AI is neither bad or good, and it's neutral, and it is what we decide to do with it, that makes it good or bad or ethical, I think that we would probably want to teach them some of it. Yeah. If they're going to be, what is it? Like, if, parents that let their kids have a beer or something in their presence, like, you're going to drink anyways. So you might as well drink here at home while I can watch you and I can monitor the situation, kind of a thing. maybe that's not a good, maybe that's not a good example, but I understand. I understand where those parents are coming from. I didn't have parents like that. So whenever I went out to drink when I was a kid, I got obliterated at parties. But
Hmm.
the kids at the parties who were keeping it cool, who just had a drink or two, they had the parents at home who monitored them for their first few drinks, sort of taught them the ropes, like you don't have to go all excessive with this. They had a mature concept of how to have a drink. So that's what we need to do. I don't know, man.
I like that. I like how you put that. I think I agree. I would say I agree. We need to figure out what's the formula and how we can ease them in, into understanding it. Just I get some questions for you, and then I swear we're getting out of here. So
Yeah.
the first question someone is asking you, Tim. Oh, sorry. Let me read it from here. Do you think AI will mature to the level of consciousness, and will it understand how evil always wins? That's a loaded question, but if you want to try at it.
Well, I'll just say, I got a question for you, I guess. Does evil always win? Or maybe that's a typo. I don't know if that's what they meant to convey there. But
I think
I
there's
would,
something that isn't metaphysically, philosophically sound.
Mhm.
So what we're going to do is skip that question, but yeah, because yeah, it's not sound. So I think this is a question for me. When will you be back on Brother Rich show? And I appreciate the build. Wholeness to the both of y'all, all that watch the stream. Jerry G. I will be back on Brother Rich show. I haven't reached out to Brother Rich, so as soon as we link up, we're gonna get a show together. We're gonna get it rolling. So look for that soon in the near future. Can we teach AI to stop lying? I've seen this person put this in the chat a couple of times. I don't think that's a good question either. I don't know what they're
well, that
talking about with.
that might go back to programming too, and who programs the initial AI template. Because we were seeing in some of those early forms of AI, we were seeing a, shall we say, uh, more, I don't know, woke leaning type of
Mhm.
like a format where they were trying to be very politically correct.
Yeah, that
So
was a sabotage. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
good point. Um, I guess the person that was asking your question, Tim, they rephrased it. When it becomes conscious, will it understand the power in both good and evil, seeking balance? You want to try that one?
well, maybe. Hey, we can hope that it seeks balance. I mean, certainly, I hope so. Uh, I think the first question that they said was, "Will it reach consciousness?" So, oh, it says that here as well. When it becomes conscious, will it understand the
Yeah,
power in both good and evil? Well, if it's already a consciousness that we're tapping into, then it probably has a concept of good and evil. If it already existed. Um, these are tough questions though. So, some of these I'd have to probably pontificate on, man, honestly.
and shout out to American Citizen X. At
Mhm.
least you're trying to bring this thing along. But
That's a good
Tim,
question,
man,
for sure.
yeah, we appreciate you, man. This was
Mm.
excellent. This is excellent, excellent show. We got to do more of these in the near future. Can you please tell them where they can find you, or anything else that you're working on, or anything to look forward to, so they can subscribe and follow?
Yeah, absolutely, man. My show is Six Sensory Podcast. I'll spell it out because people get really imaginative with that if I don't spell it out. It's just SIX, Six Sensory Podcast. So it's on YouTube. I'm on Spotify, Apple. I have an Instagram and a Patreon. But the best two places to find me would be Spotify and YouTube. And yeah, Six Sensory Podcast. I put most of my work up there. My unreleased shows, they all go up on Patreon. And that's all I got, man. For me, it's a blast. I uh I second that motion. I think we should do another one of these. This was a lot of fun, man. I have stuff that we didn't touch today too that maybe one day we'll put it out there for people. And shout out to the chat, man. Those were like some pretty good questions there. And Ani, you yourself, you threw me that question a minute ago that I didn't have an answer for, really. I mean, I had to think about it, but I hadn't thought about it before, So anyway, all in all, great show, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. And yeah, I do. I need to start thinking about that too, because I have a young son, and I need to. Yeah, I was thinking about teaching him some stuff on that. So I'm pondering it for myself, actually for the future. But you guys know where to find me. Go on patreon.com/THE_spiritual shade room. We will be having a big master class tomorrow on the plant Kabbalah. So we're going into some psychedelic plants, plant medicines, and going real deep with the information. I think it's going to be one of the biggest shows that we have. We're also doing a review of Stranger Things 5, and they're going to go deep into that stuff. Also find me on Instagram, Spiritual Shade Room, the #1 next to it, and follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Ani Osaru, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. So with that, I will say thanks, Tim, until the next time we do this, and our Poya to the family, peace and blessings. See you guys next time.